So here's the misconception I had about reconnaissance. I thought reconnaissance worked on the offensive. So let's say I am gone for mobile warfare. I want to focus on blitzkrieg because it's the best tactic to use because it lets me break through and move really quick into enemy territory. Yada yada, bing bada boom. And in that case, I want to basically select blitzkrieg every possible chance. So my understanding was if I stack lots and lots of reconnaissance, I will be in a situation where I'm more likely to do a blitzkrieg. Turns out, reconnaissance only calculates not the chance of you selecting a tactic. All it does is select the chance of you countering someone else's tactic. So I think the counter to blitzkrieg is elastic defense. So if a division on the defensive has lots and lots of reconnaissance, they're more likely to counter blitzkrieg with elastic defense if they have high reconnaissance. So it turns out from testing, reconnaissance only really benefits you on the defensive. Now, it does benefit you on the offensive, but around about 1 or 2%, where about 5 to 10% on the defensive. So you know what my honest opinion is, guys? Unless you're defending, reconnaissance is useless. There you go, I said it. And I have changed my own mind. I have changed my own mind. This is the healthiest thing to do in the world, guys. Recon is poo. There you go, guys. I changed my own mind. Well, it wasn't me, actually. It was the guy who wrote this article. But I have now basically gone for galaxy brain. I have now ascended and I am one with the universe because I have successfully changed my mind. Anyway, that's it. That's basically it. So I made a recent tier list for support equipment, and everything that was reconnaissance that I put near the top, I was totally wrong. Shuffle it down 2-3 places because I think it's crap. I do think his ranking of MP is really bad, though. If you're a nation like Hungary and you don't have a lot of manpower, if you max out MP, you reduce the size of garrisons by 50%. Which basically means that you don't have to dedicate 50% as much equipment, 50% as much manpower, and as a minor power, you don't have a lot of those two things. So I think he's ranked MP way too low. And field hospitals, to this day, are absolutely awful. You should not be making field hospitals. Have I made a video on that? Maybe I will. Who knows? So he basically said, are signal companies and recons worth it? The answer is no. No. So the difference in signal companies wasn't actually notable. It was too small, so it wasn't really effective. The bonuses you got for reconnaissance, for countering tactic, was around 10 to 20%. Now, actually think about that, that's actually quite high. So in that case, maybe it's good for the defensive. But for the offensive, do not bother going for reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is useless. Then he talks more about combat widths, what we've already talked about. Talked about its large and small divisions. Once again, we've already covered that. He basically goes from our middle ground for 30, 1 for stats, 2 for HP, 3 for organization. That's the good middle ground. Basically comparing 10 widths to 30 widths, and basically the comparison means that 10 widths take way more casualties and more losses. Surprise, surprise. Can you link the article? It's in my Discord. It's the pinned messages in the images chat. That's really interesting. Maintenance companies add an extra 10% reliability. So maybe maintenance onto that division I just showed before was actually kind of the best thing to do. He also stated that the production cost of tanks is not worth it compared to what you get from planes. And I actually 100% agree with that. And that is the reason why the 10 width cast meta is so strong in single player, because planes are just so cost effective. They're so cost effective. Planes desperately need a nerf, and I don't know what you would do without making them useless. Hence the reason why 10 width cast spam is so powerful in single player. Bit of Steel does it. Torior does it. Everyone does the 10 width cast spam meta because it's so cost effective. Yeah, light tanks have virtually no armor, so what's the point? I don't understand the point of light tanks. They work in 1939, maybe the invasion of France, but then at that point they fall off massively, so I don't see the point of them. At the end of the day, if you want a tank, you want armor. So why would you make a light tank? Light tanks are so redundant. Also, whenever you spend 1 point over 9, like 1 into 10 in armor or 10 in engine, they charge you an extra 1 for chromium. So my advice is the min-maxing the production cost for tanks is 9. I think I said that in a previous video. Ignore this because this has changed. Use a new patch. When reliability is high, org recovery will be higher and attrition loss of tanks will be minimal. You cannot give your tanks both speed and high reliability early on. You have to choose, and I usually go for the reliability. There you go. I don't think fast tanks are very good, but once again, I'm always open to my mind being changed. Modules like easy maintenance, radio are excellent. Get them when you can. Be careful with radio, though, because it can be expensive early on. All right, it goes without saying, flame tanks are super strong. There you go. Oh, here we go. So basically, he calculates here what the optimal composition of infantry and artillery is. The optimal infantry-artillery ratio. So this is the percentage of infantry, right? And this is artillery, right? I always find these graphs so difficult to read. So basically, there's a sweet spot on the amount of damage, and that's org to damage ratio. And I think he said the most optimal is 22%. So for every 5 infantry divisions, 1 will be artillery. No, for every 4. Sorry, every 4. I personally think this is good, and I agree with it. The problem is artillery is expensive, and also adding artillery to division reduces org and HP, so you might have issue with attrition. But based on these results, it looks like that's the most optimal. So for every 4 infantry is 1 artillery. All right, so this is combat width again. He specifically talks about optimal combat width. He does a bunch of tests to find out what like the most effective combinations are, and he finds out the most effective garrison is 1 horse. I'm going to make a video on garrisons one day and talk about it more. Like, goes into depth about fighters as well, and how some planes are just not worth their cost. Anti-air reduces the power of CAS by 75%, hence the reason why support AA is so powerful. And this basically summarizes it. I guess we can go through these, I guess. If your opponent uses anti-tank, you might as well replace your tank destroyers by an anti-tank support company. Use attrition graph to determine how much reliability, what we talked about. Given enough air support, basically any basic infantry could push through enemy lines, hence the 10 width CAS meta I keep talking about. CAS is less effective than naval bombers against ships, but can still be used for that purpose. Hence the reason CAS just do everything. At the minute, CAS do everything. They have air superiority. They can dogfight if you stack the agility. They do logistical strikes. They just do everything. CAS at the moment is what needs nerfed. Flame tank support equipment. I think they need to be more expensive. CAS are too cheap. Flame tank support equipment, anti-tank, and tank destroyers are variable to attrition due to their low quantities in divisions. So put extra factories on them to prevent shortages. Use transport planes to support equipment due to enemy front lines. Railways require some time to repair and build. Yeah, this doesn't apply as much now because transport planes have been nerfed. I personally think using trucks as support for supply are the best. We're in a stalemate. Went in a stalemate, but air superiority in the air, logistic strike will cripple enemy support. Agreed. Very good on the defensive. Railway guns decrease enemy attack, defense, and entrenchment. Though expensive, they can still be worth the cost. Every time I make them, I feel like I've already won. Marines support by Amtraks and tank destroyers can attack any terrain type. Oh, that's really interesting. So Amtraks and tank destroyers are basically universal. They can attack everything. I guess they're stuck in mountains though, wouldn't they? We need a mountain tank. Oh, mountain tank meta. You guys up for that? Yeah. Obtain the extended Special Forces program technology to increase Special Forces capacity. I forget this exists. Refit your tanks after obtaining a new technology such as improved radio. Using combat with simulators to find the most optimal. Create a variant of the mechanized infantry to reduce costs from 8 to 4 AC. Oh, basically make mechanized cheap. By 50%. At the minute, that's really broken, and maybe that'll get nerfed. Guys, we finally did it. That's it. That's the entire article. Have you guys got any questions you want to go through? I imagine there's probably a lot of things you're not too sure about. I'm sorry I've been ignoring the chat a little bit, because once again, there's a lot to get through, and I want to like plow through it as quickly as possible, and I didn't want to like dwell on it for a billion years. Any questions, guys? Come on, in the chat. Any questions? You didn't tell us a single combat width we should always build. Are you trolling me? I can't even tell if you're memeing anymore. Guys, I can't even tell what is satire anymore. I really can't.